Hello everyone, my name is John Carlisle. I'm an assistant planner with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, and I'm the project manager for the Village of Carroll Stream's comprehensive plan. This phase of the plan is what we call the draft for public comment phase, and because we're at that phase of the plan, we would like to present to you all of the key recommendations that the plan makes, tell you how you can access it, and encourage you to provide some feedback. If you're watching this, you're either attending the open house in person on March 16th, or you're watching beforehand or after the meeting so that you're caught up and able to see what's going on. So we appreciate your participation and interest. First, who is CMAP? Well, CMAP stands for, as I already said, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. We were established in 2005. To plan comprehensively for economic prosperity and improved quality of life. We serve all 7 counties of the Chicago region, covering 284 municipalities and more than 1,200 units of local government. So why is CMAP funding this project for the Village of Carroll Stream? Well, CMAP created the GO2 2040 Regional Comprehensive Plan back in 2010, and that plan recommended that implementing its principles should be done directly with these local communities. And as a result, our agency has a team of planners called Local Technical Assistants, and that is who I work with. We've completed more than 160 projects since our team was created, and we've done that with municipalities and nonprofits. We typically have about twice as many applicants than we have projects completed. Unfortunately, we're not able to provide assistance to everyone who applies, but the Village of Carroll Stream was chosen to receive our assistance and have a plan done by our team. The village has not updated its comprehensive plan since 1980, so it is important to go through that process now. Typically, comprehensive plans are only supposed to last about 10 years in their scope, so it's definitely time to do one in Carroll Stream. It's also important to note that this project is being completed at no cost to the village. The purpose of this presentation and for the entire open house is, like I said earlier, display the comprehensive plan recommendations and to receive your feedback on those recommendations. I have to start by directing you where to see the entire plan in person, or rather to just be able to access the entire plan. You can see it in person if you are at the meeting this evening on the 16th, because we'll have print copies there. Otherwise, you can access it through this website there, cmap.illinois.gov. Quickly, you could just Google Carroll Stream CMAP, and it will probably bring you to this page where the link to download the plan is. You can take a look at our process. We've actually been working on this plan for now more than 2 years, but we are near the end. We are at the end of that plan preparation and revision stage and about to move into plan adoption. Here's a quick look at the other times we have sought community feedback broadly. We typically do outreach in 3 phases. We introduce the project to the village board. We look for steering committee volunteers and do interviews, focus groups, talk to key groups. In this case, we attended a Chamber of Commerce meeting. And then we hold 3 public meetings, a workshop in phase 1, public visioning, which we did last March, and then finally this public open house. The last phase, which I will talk about on the last slide, is the public hearing in front of the Plan Commission, where they will be voting to adopt the plan. So now let's really get into what the plan talks about and how we arrived at the recommendations. Well, first of all, any planning process reveals several issues and strengths in communities, and our recommendations, first and foremost, respond to those issues and try to build on those strengths. So though there were lots of issues, they really seem to fit into 4 main key categories. The first one is the fact that there are pretty visible underutilized sites, and underutilized meaning either a site is completely vacant and has not been developed yet, or it is in need of redevelopment. As you can see, the bottom right corner there's an image of a slide with available acreage. Within Carroll Stream's village boundaries, there are about 80 acres that are parcels that have not been incorporated into Carroll Stream. They are kind of surrounded by it like Swiss cheese holes. And then within the planning jurisdiction, which goes out within about a 1.5-mile radius of Carroll Stream's boundaries, there are about 1,800 acres of unincorporated land for which there's a need to plan for a vision for all of those 1,800 acres. Second issue that we heard from a lot from public and key stakeholders was the sense of a lack of a central place, a lack of a downtown specifically. Another issue was the feeling of physical barriers and disconnectedness, that the community was kind of spread out from one another, that residents maybe didn't feel very unified for various reasons. It's not just a planning issue. Obviously, there are some other social issues that can lead to that, namely, for instance, schools are a good way for communities to be united, but Carroll Stream is split among different school districts, particularly high school districts. There's not anything this planning process can do about that, but in terms of what we can do in terms of planning and breaking down barriers, I guess, or bridging the gap, we wanted to take that on. And finally, the last thing relates to water. So flooding in the past has been an issue in Carroll Stream, as well as it's the watershed, which basically refers to all of the waterways and their creeks and all the vegetation nearby them, trying to protect those, basically protect the natural habitats. So those emerged as the key issues, and then we developed the priority themes from those issues. First of all, to envision a future land use concept, and we focused on opportunity areas, which I'll be talking about in a minute. Strengthening local character, developing a strong identity for Carroll Stream that builds on the community pride that's already there, but using some planning tools in order to make that a bit more visible. For instance, expanding mixed use and walkability within developments, promoting housing stability and adaptability, as not just Carroll Stream, but a lot of communities are seeing their housing stock need to respond to new demands and trends in the market. And of course, to foster business growth, whether that is a large national brand business that has a presence in Carroll Stream, perhaps in the business park, or maybe it's a local business that is unique to Carroll Stream. In either case, we want to be able to foster their growth. Another theme is to improve the transportation network, specifically supporting walking, biking, and transit, and then to continue investment in water and natural resource management and explore innovative solutions. So if you're at the meeting this evening, you'll notice that there are posters on each of these themes that hopefully walk you through in a similar way what I'm about to do in these slides. Future land use. So overall, you'll notice when I show the future land use map that new industrial is recommended, but usually with a light industrial focus, or to build upon the very strong cluster within Carroll Stream that is within logistics and warehousing. Carroll Stream has become a regionally important community in those industries, and this plan recommends that continue. You will notice some areas of new residential, both new single-family and multifamily. You will notice new commercial, but typically new commercial, especially commercial retail, is supported by nearby residential or industrial. And the concept for that is that, though certainly it's great to recommend more and perhaps better places to shop, the market has to support that. As a region, we are generally overbuilt with the amount of commercial space, and so we want to be cautious when we recommend new commercial retail, and we always want that to be supported by either residents or by workers who are in your community working during the day or at any time. We did some specific drill down work into 3 opportunity areas on the map. What we call the town center node, which is around what is currently the Ross Ferraro Town Center, at 2 different intersections, Gary Avenue and Stark, and then Gary Avenue and Lease. And then The other opportunity areas are at the corner, or around the corner of North and County Farm Road, which is currently mostly unincorporated, are the parcels around there, but all within Carroll Stream's planning jurisdiction, so could be incorporated in the future. And then finally, North and Bennett, which is actually north, extends all the way over toward Coon Road, but especially around the corner there with North and Bennett. So those are the three key opportunity areas that we will be diving into in a minute. Just looking over your existing land use first, you'll notice a couple of things. First of all, I've been referring to that planning jurisdiction that's outside of Carroll Stream's incorporated area, and that's what this dashed red line shows you. Of course, this is forest preserve, so this is not land that would be developed, but you can see we have assigned land uses, assessed what the land is being used for. On a land use map, single family is always in kind of a yellow tint, multifamily in brown, industrial is always in purple, and then what probably jumps out to you are those like dark gray or even black vacant parcels. So you can see vacancies are kind of scattered all around, and that's precisely why this emerged as the number one issue for this plan. A couple of other observations I'm sure you can already make, but just to point out that industrial is clustered heavily over here between Gary and Schmale Roads. Your industrial corridor or business park area is over here, and multifamily developments are primarily down here in the southeast corner of Carroll Stream, and kind of here in the center, or a little bit east of center of town is where you'll see most brown as it exists. Just to orient you as well, so your neighboring communities, Wheaton is directly to the south, a little bit of Glen Ellen here. This is Glendale Heights. You also border Bloomingdale, Hanover Park, a little bit of Bartlett, and then you don't directly border, but West Chicago is nearby, and that's related to the planning jurisdiction. So if you can see where we recommended, on the future land use map, we plan for all of those vacancies and assign a future use to them. Generally not varying too widely from the pattern that already exists, but encouraging it, especially in these key sites that I'm going to get to in a minute, encouraging a mix of different uses. Also, you can see on this legend, upgraded industrial, meaning there are land that's already kind of being used for an industrial purpose, but perhaps that use is not active or underutilized, and we're particularly focused in that regard to what's going on over near North and County Farm, as well as along the St. Charles Road corridor here in kind of the southeastern portion of the village. So these key opportunity areas I keep talking about, again, it's the town center up here, North and County Farm, and then North and Bennett right here, sites 1, 2, and 3. Just to walk you through each of these, the town center, which already has a nice park and recreation center here. These sites up here at Gary and Stark, as well as at Gary and Lease, are vacant with pretty large parcels, and so what we did was basically worked with two different consultants to conduct a market analysis, and then to provide some renderings and concept sketches of images, which is exactly what you see here and here. The market analysis basically, which was done for all three of these key sites, or these opportunity areas, by the way, the market analysis revealed that number one, that though commercial is useful and can be supported in a lot of ways on the higher traffic streets like Gary, it also will need to be supported by new housing or new employment opportunities. So that's what you will notice from a lot of these recommendations. The town center node through here, this kind of stretch, is probably where we're envisioning Carroll Stream to have more of a downtown feel, a bit more of a walkable scale. For instance, here at Gary and Lease, you'll notice even on the rendering done by the consultants, there are pedestrian crosswalks. That'll be very important to make this kind of development fulfill the vision that was set forth throughout this whole planning process, for something that has basically a mix of uses. And when we talk about mixed use, which you'll see is illustrated here in orange, that really can mean one of two things. It can mean that multiple uses are occurring on the same property. So, spaced out, kind of like you see up here. This building is being used for commercial. This one is being used for multifamily residential, but they're all kind of in the same area, walkable to each other. Or they can mean that multiple uses can exist in the same building, which is what the 12 label down here is showing around Gary and Lease. I do want to clarify and point out that, particularly for this image, that these renderings are very conceptual. None of the designs that you see here, like the details and the exact placement of where these buildings are, none of this has been committed to. No developer has come forward to propose these exactly. So this is not a firm development proposal at all. It really is a concept sketch that is generated by a market analysis and by planning work on what could be supported at these intersections. So I just want to make that very clear. Again, that's opportunity area number 1, the town center. Opportunity area number 2, we didn't do quite the same level of detailed work with the bird's eye renderings and sketches, but we did do land use illustration to show different colors as to what could be there. You can see the legend to the left. Essentially, there's opportunity for new commercial here as well as existing commercial, and hopefully upgraded industrial. These are the key components to this node. Also, as kind of a transition, you have existing single family to the north in this area, and perhaps townhomes, which have recently been very successful in Carroll Stream. You have some very attractive townhomes in your community that have been newly built. Small townhome development that probably wouldn't add that many units, but would add some units in this part of town, could be supported right here. And finally, to opportunity area number 3, this is North Avenue at the intersection of Bennett Drive and Coon, both of which have traffic signals. The acreage here is shown basically so that light industrial would be the future concept use near this water reclamation center, with some landscape buffering here. And then over closer to Bennett, looking at kind of a flexible concept where either commercial or multifamily residential that it basically expands upon the townhome concept over here. A flexible vision is what we came up with here. Obviously, this is shown in red to capitalize on the high traffic counts on North Avenue, but this may not be the most successful, the number 1 successful commercial spot in your community, as you have some bigger intersections, say with Gary and Schmale, and also even to the west with County Farm. This intersection is somewhere that probably the commercial there would need to be supported by nearby residents. That said, I reiterate that this graphic in the plan is designed to show flexibility. So if development interests were to occur, obviously the village would be encouraged to develop this whole area as commercial if possible. Moving on to that second theme is character. We made several strategies to talk about how the village can improve its image. Basically, one change is to make a change in zoning that would allow more mixed use, and I explained already kind of what that means. Designating character corridors for streetscaping and maintenance, so the streets that most people drive on or walk on or bike on the most should be prioritized in streetscaping and maintenance. Adding gateway and wayfinding signs to point visitors and even locals on how to get around and see the key landmarks and destinations. To use maybe some historical markers, whether that's banners or lighting or some special features in what is the original Carroll Stream development. Encouraging community events and festivals. investing in facilities south of North Avenue, specifically Community Park, and finally studying and possibly piloting a facade improvement program, which basically incentivizes businesses to upgrade the way they look from the street, upgrade their buildings, and a program that basically usually matches their small investments in doing that can be successful and has been successful around the region in creating more vibrant shopping and commercial areas. And this is a look at that plan, exactly showing some locations where we recommend various things like new gateway signage, for instance. This is the loosely defined boundaries of original Carroll Stream. Transportation in this plan focuses mostly on non-motorized methods, as Carroll Stream is already has a pretty good network for both driving and trucks, and that of course has enabled its logistics and industry to be so successful. But really a focus we heard from stakeholders in the community was to look at how to make the community more friendly for riding transit, using trails, biking, and walking around. So in general, we propose extending the sidewalk or multi-use paths near bus routes, dense housing, and large employers. The plan points to some specific areas where attention is needed there. Encouraging greater transit ridership. There are some strategies for how to accomplish that. Of course, transit within Carroll Stream directly is provided almost exclusively by PACE, as the Metra is nearest in Wheaton and in Schaumburg. Considering transit in future developments, so when future developments occur, considering how to make bus access easy, I guess, as part of those developments and encourage naturally. Undertaking an active transportation plan, so this comprehensive plan, the scope of which is not necessarily to make a lot of specific ideas on where a bike lane should be put or where a street should be realigned. It stops short of making a lot of specific recommendations because some pretty thorough study is required to do that. But we do recommend that be one of the next planning endeavors the village takes on to build on its kind of already very useful side path network, which is growing with some recent projects. And then the last thing is to consider what's called a complete streets policy. Complete streets is a term in planning that refers to basically making all streets projects or all roadway projects have to consider all users, not just drivers or trucks, but also people walking and biking, etc., people with disabilities. Also, there's an environmental component to complete streets that encourages communities to, make improvements to sewer and flooding when they do streets projects. This map shows the bicycle and pedestrian network all existing, as well as some different opportunities maybe to grow that network. There are several projects that are already planned and at different stages of being implemented, whether they've already been funded and it's just a matter of construction happening, whether they have been called for in a plan but maybe not funded and implemented yet. Typically, bike improvements are always at various stages between just an idea on a plan and when they actually get installed and put into use. But you should know that you can see the different proposed and future routes here, that there's a lot of activity in this topic in your community. Finally, the theme of water and natural resource management. The Klein Creek Flood Mitigation Project with the DuPage County Stormwater was completed in the spring in Armstrong Park. We recommend supporting whatever ongoing actions need to occur to make sure that continues to be effective. And then the next step, though, is to encourage the village to look at what we call site-scale improvements for green infrastructure, meaning basically the smaller types of things that can happen in development to encourage people to protect waterways and the environment to allow native vegetation to grow and basically preserve natural resources. Carroll Stream is a community that is very green and lush and has a lot of potential to make that a big part of its character, and we heard that that was something that people in the village and other partners were very interested in doing. A couple more specific ideas around that then are to review the development ordinances for ways that they can protect different waterways, and then finally to do something called conservation design when looking at future single-family, particularly single-family housing development. In particular, there's on the future land use map, there's some future single-family housing shown around McCaslin Park in an unincorporated area, and this plan recommends that any future single-family housing development there kind of intertwine with the park, which can create really a very nice place to live that also does not infringe much upon the natural habitat. This is the natural open space plan. The data used to formulate this is something called the Green Infrastructure Vision, which you can access through CMAP's website. Actually, through the CMAP Data Hub is the best way to find that. Finally, next steps. We're going to incorporate the input that we received during the public comment period. We are hoping to hear from the public by all comments by by Friday, March 25th. That way that we're able to make some revisions, incorporate input, and basically create the final plan, as the plan is currently in draft stage, and we would present that final plan at a public hearing of the Plan Commission in the spring. Of course, the Plan Commission, if the plan is good, we hope will recommend adopting that plan, and then the village board at a meeting not long after that would vote on official adoption of the plan. So if you would like to submit comments, you have two options. You can email me at jcarlisle@cmap.illinois.gov. And if you're in attendance tonight, you can write down comments on the slips on the tables near the posters and just insert them into the appropriate folder. So thank you very much for watching and participating in this process, and we look forward to hearing from you.